But we can talk about kind of just Alabama and Clemson. Both teams losing on the same week. Top 10 teams. Uh, pretty have had the path to the playoff, right? They, if they would have won out from, if they won last week and won out the rest of the year, they were kind of in control of their own destiny, right? Clemson would have been able to win the ACC, um, be undefeated and
Right.
get in, no problem, right? Alabama, yeah, they had their loss to Tennessee, but if they would have won out and then won the
Won the
SEC
championship.
championship, they're in, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and they both fall and they potentially out of playoff conversation
Maybe that'll.
in early November. I
Yeah.
mean, I can't remember the last time that they were both out of here this early, and it kind of brings up the question: is their era of dominance fading? Right? We know the whole NIL thing, and it was a lot of fun for people to talk about the whole Jimbo versus Saban kind of thing in the off season. But I mean, Saban has made it clear this is not fun for him. Um, he doesn't like this whole outbidding people for players kind of
The
situation. He doesn't want to play that NIL game. Not that that he necessarily doesn't want them to make money, but just kind of the way things are being done and being handled overall. He did sign a monster contract, but we know these contracts aren't very solid, especially if you're going to retire, right? I mean, if you're going to change teams, yeah, there's a buyout. Retiring
is a whole nother
is a
story.
whole nother story. He's getting up there in age, right? He's over 70 now.
Yeah, I believe he's
I think he's 70.
72 or
Yeah, he's
73.
71, 72, 73, whatever he is. Yeah, he's getting up there, and he's talked about this is what he wants to do. For a team like this, right? We saw last year him say, "Oh, well, it's a young team. It's really a rebuilding year for next year." Well, this is next year, and
It's
they
not
don't.
looking too good.
It's not looking too good. I mean, they're already kind of out of it. Now you're gonna have Bryce Young and many other players leave, and you're kind of starting all over again. So now you're looking okay. Next year doesn't look that all that good for them. I mean, they're gonna have a great recruiting class.
Right.
But typically, you want to get those guys a year or two in, not when they're freshmen for you to look to win the championship. You're gonna have to break in a new quarterback. All these challenges. I don't know. I mean, I think,
It's a lot.
yeah, I wouldn't look. Do I think that Nick Saban is gonna just call it quits and retire right now? Um, I wouldn't bet on it, but if he did, I can see why, and I wouldn't be too
Wouldn't be
surprised,
surprised at all.
given that it seems like a long road to get back to the type of,
Football that he was
yeah,
playing.
yeah, and to be sitting on top of the college football landscape the way he did, and then with Dabo, we kind of seen him tumble with losing those coordinators that were so important to the program. Him deciding to promote from within instead of trying to go find more qualified guys to do the job. They've kind of fallen a bit in terms of recruiting.
Right.
The offense hasn't looked good last year. It's been
Even this
somewhat
year.
better this year, but still had some trouble. And they've been a team that historically has been able to really you know have a stronghold on that conference. And yeah,
Yeah, it seems like with Bama, I mean, it can be the end of a dominance kind of, especially with the way that Kirby Smart's doing things in Georgia. You have another bully per se in the SEC. So it's not so much of a like cakewalk and then we'll play the serious games. Obviously Saban's very passionate. He's passionate about what he does and he has a tremendous amount of success. He's one of the greatest college football coaches of all time, if not the. And we've seen years and years and years. I mean, almost I'm sure a decade of dominance with Nick Saban, even outside of even outside of Bama when he was on LSU. But as far as with his situation, it's kind of weird because it's like you said, he's not getting younger. He's getting a little bit older. The
And
game is
the
changing.
SEC as a whole, right? I
Nah,
mean, everyone likes to talk about how the SEC is so good, but it's only been getting better, right? Now you
nah,
have Kirby Smart, who has now grown into kind of Nick Saban Jr. in a way,
nah,
right? With the way his program is run, the type of recruiting classes that they're able to stack and stack and stack on top of each other.
right.
And he's getting better, right? They're putting together full fledged teams now. It's not only defense, right? They're able to throw the ball and do other things and have dominant defenses. You still have Lane Kiffin there. You see the Kentucky kind of be able to do some things. You see Tennessee kind of being a
Stepping up
team
now.
on the rise. You have Brian Kelly coming to LSU. Things got a lot harder in that SEC with the rest of the team saying, "Look, we're tired of losing to Saban. Let's go find somebody who could put together a good
Be
recruiting class,
right.
be a good leader for our program, have our guys play better." And yeah, I mean, look, it's always been tough in that SEC. It seems like it's only getting tougher, and with the emergence of these new NIL deals and all these sorts of things,
I think that's
there,
a huge
yeah,
factor in
look,
it.
there's other teams that are way more versed in that area, and they're able to take advantage a little bit more than what they would have otherwise, right? Alabama's recruiting, it doesn't change much for them
Right.
besides the fact that other teams in the SEC can do better than they used to, right? We saw A&M bringing a monster recruiting class. I mean, we didn't even talk about them so far because of how they haven't performed well this year. But a
Right.
team like A&M, another team like Miami, who hasn't been good this year, these other teams around the land. I mean, Miami's not in the SEC, but other teams in college football, they might
They'll
be
get
able
there.
to pull these things together. We see, Lincoln Riley over in USC, um,
Turning it around
turning
already.
things around. Right, the whole landscape is shifting. Where Alabama was once so far ahead, head and shoulders above everybody. The only other teams there were like Clemson and sometimes Ohio State. Now a lot of these teams have the opportunity to rise up, and
and
yeah,
and be able to compete.
yeah, and
And
along with a tougher SEC schedule,
right.
it's rough. And for a guy who's older and has shown the ability to adapt, how much more is he going to keep trying to adapt at this point when, look, it's got to be tiring when if you're Nick Saban and you're used to always being there at the end of the year,
Right.
knowing like having losses like this and like
And having to
yeah,
continue to
like how do you
coach.
stay how do one you stay motivated and then how do you keep your guys motivated, right? A
Right.
lot of them are going to the NFL, but the rest of them got to come back next year and you got to try to keep those guys on the right path so next year you could do good even
Right.
though you have to break in a new quarterback next year and there's probably not the greatest chance that you're going to do it with a first year quarterback and win the
The
whole thing. You
and
know what
then
I'm
on
saying?
top of that, it's like those players, you don't know if they'll be coming back. They may be like, well, this is the end is near kind of thing. So they're onto the transfer portal, and then that's a
Yeah.
whole nother story where it's like they may be going to a different SEC team, Big Ten, whatever the case is. With Dabo, it's real quick, it's kind of weird because all season he's kind of under. I mean, Clemson's kind of underperformed.
I mean, they felt like pretenders all year.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like it was due to happen, but to get just mauled by Notre Dame like that was kind of crazy.
Yeah, I kind of looked at Clemson as a team that would at least get the job done in terms of the regular season,
Hmm.
get to the playoffs, and then run into like a Georgia or something like that, and then
And
get
just get
destroyed, right?
right, right,
But for them to not even get there is surprising. Even though like we kind of knew they were, um, you know, just going to be around to get destroyed in the playoffs, but yeah, look, both of these teams with lots of success, and I don't know, we're getting into kind of a new era here, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with the programs and the coaches as well, right?
right.
Saban, a lot older in age, but interesting to see how things will go for both of those coaches.